Alrighty. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to officially call this meeting to order. This is the Better Government Committee meeting of the Los Angeles City Charter Reform Commission. Today's Thursday, November 26th, and it is 2:06. I'd like to roll call. We have Commissioner Lewis present and myself. Commissioner Yap will be joining us shortly. First thing on our agenda today is the approval of the minutes from our meeting at Ramona Hall. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second, that is approved. Next, we'll go into public comment. Just let's
Sure.
hear with those.
Perfect. I'll just let folks sign up really quickly for public comment. Well, while we have the last couple people signing up for public comment, we can start with virtual public comment, which Kate is gonna administer for us from the laptop. This is, we have a one item agenda, so one item plus general public comment means a maximum of 2 minutes for public comment both online and in person.
If you'd like to give remote public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. Our first speaker is going to be Mike. Mike, how much time would you like?
2 minutes, please.
All right, 2 minutes, starting now.
Hi, good afternoon. Mike Feinstein, former Santa Monica Mayor. Your committee is called Better Government, and I think that we have better government when all the people who are affected by decisions are at the table. And when I was on my city council, we elected several people at a time and benefited from having multiple views of candidates and office holders from the same geographic area. And of course, single seat districts don't do that. It only has one person elected. So saying that, I'm happy to report that yesterday that the Government Structure Committee voted to look further at ranked choice voting and proportional ranked choice voting. And that's going to be coming to you as a full commission in January. And between now and then, we're going to be sending you memos on how, especially PRCV, proportional ranked choice voting, can advance the goals of the California Voting Rights Act and what steps the county would need to take to implement it. As well as we want to get some experts from the city of Portland, which has PRCV, and New York City that has RCV, and talk to you about both the educational process they went through, how they ran those elections, what the results have been. Finally, you're talking about neighborhood councils today, and if you have a 3-seat city council district, neighborhood councils are going to have people who have different backgrounds and interests as public representatives to go to. Their council members, they won't just have one, but they can go to 3, and therefore, depending on the issue, they can find different council members who can champion their issue. So we think that the neighborhood council representation would benefit as well from having multi-seat districts. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Lionel. Lionel, how much time would you like? 2 minutes, starting now.
Okay, thank you. Lionel Morris, Neighborhood Council Budget Advocate, Region 1, speaking on my own behalf. I'd like to echo the comments made by my friend Mike Feinstein. And for my comments, generally speaking, I am very concerned about the staff reports by this commission. I'm concerned that we're not going to make significant progress on reforming our government structure, and how to make our government better for everyone, how to make government work for everyone, especially our communities who depend on our government to represent them. And as a neighborhood council budget advocate, from my experience, on my own behalf, I've seen how difficult it is for our communities to get a hold of our elected officials, how our executive branch, the mayor's office, is not, engaging with the communities as much as they should be doing. And I've attended many neighborhood council meetings, virtually and in person, and many people complain about the lack of engagement. And we need to make our government better. We need to reform our government because this is our only opportunity, and we need to make significant progress ASAP. Because I am concerned as an individual, as a ratepayer, taxpayer, and a longtime CD6 resident. Thank you for your time. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Let's push forward.
Thanks, Lionel.
Our next speaker is gonna be Jamie. Jamie, how much time would you like?
I'd like to speak on all items, and can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. 2 minutes starting now.
Okay, thanks. One, thank you for having public comment available via telephone. I hope you will have that at all meetings, it's critical. I want to speak about this report. I'm really concerned that the members of this committee are making decisions based on what's in the report, when the report has glaring errors in it. There's two areas that I know pretty well, and it's ethics and neighborhood councils. And to see some of the things that are being talked about just makes me really have a lot of side eye. Just for clarity, there's no circumstances where a contract for a neighborhood council can be entered without the neighborhood council voting on that contract. Like, that's a fundamental part of our process, and this report seems to fundamentally misunderstand that. It also seems to think that the matching funds program is tied to the ethics budget. Those are two different pockets of money. Again, something that this report fundamentally doesn't seem to understand. And I have to wonder, is this being done on purpose, or is this being done out of incompetence? It feels at times like it's almost written by AI. It doesn't seem to understand the city departments and the charter with the depth that's required. One of the things that I did want to speak on is, with ethics, the emergency contracts that are being entered. I want to say publicly that system, emergency contracts, is being absolutely abused currently. Essentially right now, when an emergency is declared, the city can enter contracts for up to $100,000 with virtually no oversight. It's actually, you can't even see the contracts. And let's play blind item, shall we? Let's play blind item. Which current city council member entered into a contract with a
And that's time. Thank you, Jamie. Our next speaker is gonna be Elle. Elle, how much time would you like?
If 1 to 2 minutes is available, whatever that amount of time is that you've been doing so far.
All right, that'll be 2 minutes, starting now.
Hi everyone, my name is Elle Sieber. I am a 30-year-old woman living with long COVID in Los Angeles County. I would like to note that earlier this year, there was a vote on the LA City Council to reallocate COVID relief funds towards programming that has nothing to do with COVID or long COVID. I want people to be aware of the ongoing crisis of long COVID. I work in NIH Recover as a patient representative and in the Council for Medical Specialty Societies as a patient advisor to the long COVID expert panel. This is very much an ongoing threat. I went from making over 6 figures to driving for Uber and using my neuroscience degree to drive for Uber because I am so thoroughly disabled from one COVID infection. I want to know what the city is doing about making sure that there are funds properly that should have been allocated from COVID to COVID-related projects. I really want to ensure that this is a priority and that emergency programming is used to address the long COVID crisis with the care and the budget that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes remote public comment.
Okay, we're gonna grab the list for public comment, and then we'll do, for in-person public comment, and then we'll do that. Folks that are here for public comment, 1 to 2 minutes. I will give a 30-second warning. Let me know when your time is almost up. And I think I'm just gonna call everyone, the 3
It's a
people all
long
the time.
list because we have everybody here from City Fabric, our glorious outreach consultant.
Always a ray of sunshine. Ross, Rob, and Nick are our public comment makers today. So if you can come up, pick a seat, fantastic. You'd like 2 minutes, I'm guessing?
Yes, 2 minutes.
Okay, hold on, let me get to that part on my app and begin.
Thank you all so much. Ross Weisstrasser, individual, member of Fair Rep LA. And I'm here today because I know you have a lot to consider in a very big report, but I really want to very literally highlight for you all these recommendations on page 16, section A6, the timelines for filling vacancies like in New York City's charter, and the prohibitions on appointees running for office in just the next election immediately thereafter, like in Chula Vista's charter and San Diego's charter. And I'm highlighting these because they are just so important. They have a disproportionate impact on public trust. There is just no way to lose public trust faster than to think to myself, I don't have a representative at City Hall, and power games could be being played. There's an appearance of impropriety. And we know, just to briefly speak to some of the issues that are brought up on that topic, that council might have the ability to make quick decisions, but we know from the past 2 decades that they don't. They use their legal flexibility to enable unaccountability. And I think the best way to end quid pro quo politics is to take the quid and the quo and leave it to the pros, which are the ballot box and the public and the law that protects the public and the ballot box from the power of inappropriate discretion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Rob. After Rob is Nick.
I'd
And
like to
begin.
burst with rays of sunshine for 2 minutes. And begin by highlighting Councilmember Blumenfield's letter he sent last week where he said, quote, "I'm worried by what I see as a non-unified scattered method of deciding what should be deliberated on. I've repeatedly warned about this, and what do we see in this week's committee meetings? A bunch of commissioners unable and unwilling to make decisions and instead punting them to the full commission. This whole exercise is a waste of the little time we have. We have spent 6 months playing with our food. It's clear that none of our commissioners are willing to do anything to hold the staff or the chair of this commission accountable. The writing's on the wall. This thing is doomed and we shouldn't waste another dollar. This is controlled demolition. Just pull the plug, send it to council. Let's stop the games." I want to reiterate once again how shameless it is that this staff has heard from neighborhood councils, organizations, members of the public, proposing a number of reforms to the NC system, but this report only includes Dunn's hand-picked tweaks that do nothing to actually get to the heart of the problem. I find it funny that the only staff report that is passable is the one on the subject of planning and infrastructure, and I don't think that's a mistake. It's a result of that being the one area the commission has a staffer who has some level of experience. This report is riddled with errors, sweeping conclusions, and false arguments against reform. I don't have enough time to address that because I couldn't submit written comment, and I only got 2 minutes here. Just know, me giving up is not me going away. I'm gonna expose everyone responsible for this and make this thing so painful for Karen Bass, she can't stand to see your face or hear your name or hear your voice.
You have 30 more seconds. You're done?
30 more seconds? I'll just waste some more time. I really wonder what we're doing here. He's enjoying it. He gets paid no matter what. Y'all aren't getting paid.
And 2 minutes.
Why are
Thank
you
you.
doing
And
it?
last is Nick. Nick, 2 minutes.
You know,
Okay, and go.
good afternoon, Commissioners. Nick from Liverpool Advanced LA. Today's discussion goes to the heart of whether people can trust their government at all. If there's any place where we must be uncompromising, it's here. Even as recommendations, these charter items should send a clear message that our government is only as strong as the trust of its people. The staff report identifies real issues, but it also leaves major gaps. It repeatedly warns that adding clarity could create rigidity, yet it offers no center for when clarity is necessary. It points to problems caused by ambiguous timelines and suspensions and vacancies, but proposes no timeline fixes. And it acknowledges uneven ethics enforcement without recommending a path to uniform consequences. These omissions matter because they are exactly where past crises have caused the greatest harm. That's what the current thing that we have right here. So I'd like to offer several concrete reforms. First, strengthen the Ethics Commission with a charter-protected budget that cannot be reduced by future councils. Ethics enforcement should never depend on political wins, and establish uniform, standardized penalties that apply evenly with no reductions. Deterrence only works when consequences are certain. Second, create a clear, independent removal pathway. I recommend authorizing the Ethics Commission to discipline or, in extreme cases, remove a council member after public hearing with due process. The decision could be overturned only if 75% of the remaining council members vote to do so. This ensures accountability while preserving democratic legitimacy. Third, modernize neighborhood councils. Keep them advisory, but give them at least one new tool. If 60% of NCs in a district vote to do so, they can trigger an ethics investigation into their council members. That gives communities a real mechanism without creating a veto body. Fourth, update the charter preamble so it reflects the Los Angeles we aspire to be: transparent, accountable, and oriented toward the long-term public good. Finally, require regular report backs. Reforms only matter if they are implemented and measured in public. Now, thank you for taking these issues seriously. Integrity is the foundation for everything else we hope to accomplish in the city. And honestly, we're only gonna get 6 big swings, maybe, out of this commission. Let's make them count, really. And let's make charter reform commissions happen automatically every 10 years. Thank you.
And thank you. Perfect. Anyone else? Public comment? One's choice? Okay, perfect. Madam Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you very much, everyone who's here. I'd like to now move on. Is there anybody from the Neighborhood Council for a community impact statement for today? Anybody here? Okay. We'll move on to item number 1. This is a discussion relative to the potential better government related to the charter amendments, including but not limited to issues related to current city charter provisions, related to policies, upholding the integrity, transparency, and ethical foundation of Los Angeles' government, removal and discipline of elected officials, ethics and anti-corruption measures, neighborhood councils, and the preamble to the city charter. Do you have a presentation, I believe?
Yes.
Staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We weren't able, for those of us in the room, we weren't able to get on the screen, but we've made copies of the deck that are on the back desk. If anybody has not grabbed one yet, feel free to do so. It's also posted online with the meeting, and we're going to share the screen, I believe, of the deck for those joining us on Zoom. So we're going to walk you through this deck, which is a snapshot of what the staff report is. And today our goal is really to walk you through this this deck and this report and get some initial feedback, answer some questions, and really help you absorb a lot of the information that has been thrown at you at this 49 page document. It is a lot, as you know. We've done this now for 2 other committees, and what this document basically is it's a compilation of all the presentations that have been given by our community groups that come to these meetings to present, as well as by city departments, commissions, etc. As you can see, the Ethics Commission, for example, has given a document. So we've got a lot of, everything here has been backed up. And then, so we'll go through this and we'll have those discussions, and we in the past, what we have also done is if there's been corrections to be made, because let's say organization AFME is listed as supporting AF, and they're like, oh, actually we only support AF in part, but entirely AG, then we go back and make those changes, and things like that, of that nature. So those are the changes and updates that we've been doing for these reports as we continue to develop these along the way. So gonna go through this. I think Brianna's gonna walk us through, along with our staff here, Michael and Max are gonna walk us through the deck of this presentation, and then dig in.
Are we able to go section by section, or are you gonna?
Yeah, I think we could, so basically page by page. And feel free to stop us when you have questions or comments and thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to cover the front part about kind of process of review and report before we get into the section?
What do you say, which process? Sorry.
Sharing our report and general departments.
Oh yeah, so we've definitely been working, with teams including city attorneys, city attorney's office, CLA, CEO, and various teams to they've edited these documents as well with us, and we've taken most of the edits and incorporated them. So it's really been a big effort by a lot of hands. And the next version of this will definitely be a little more in-depth as we start to develop this. For better government, we had
the esteemed Dean of UC Berkeley School of Law and former chair of the elected LA City Charter Commission back in 1999, Erin Chemerinsky, give a presentation. Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, Dunn, has given us a presentation. Ethics Commission, Fair Rep LA, Common Cause have also given us presentations, and then staff that we've worked with these various departments, including and gotten reports, we've sourced council files on the matter as well. We've worked on, we've pulled articles and another subject matter on it. So it's really been, like I said, it's been a lot of hands, a lot of eyes, and still will continue to develop with more input from community groups and other stakeholders from across the city.
So getting into our first section, to start off, I'm Michael Shilstone. I'm a policy consultant to the Charter Reform team, helping them research and assemble some of the staff reports, including the one before you here today. I have the pleasure of covering the removal and discipline of elected officials section. So to set the table a bit, in recent years, the LA City Council has experienced a number of vacancies due to resignations, criminal corruption charges, and convictions, as well as scandals. And in the wake of these events, council districts have faced a lack of representation or have been represented by officials who they did not elect. These events have highlighted areas where the charter lacks clarity for processes around disciplining and removing officials and how these matters ought to be handled in a consistent and fair fashion. Our report includes 8 reform options for removal and discipline of elected officials. Go to the next slide. The first of those reforms that we highlighted is to provide clearer language for suspension of a council member pending trial. So to create specificity, the charter can establish a standard process that requires the introduction of a motion or a resolution calling for the suspension of an elected officer, stating findings as grounds for the suspension, and sets forth timelines and procedures by which the motion / resolution must be heard and acted upon. So today it's sort of it's not spelled out in the charter, it's an ad hoc process, typically follows this kind of process. There's no assigned actors to lead this process, and by timeframes by which it must happen. Additionally, the charter may provide greater clarity regarding any other punitive mechanisms for non-criminal misconduct beyond censure, which does not have any formal consequences or penalties besides potential reputational damage. Next reform is to clarify Section 207 vacancy requirements to state explicitly that convictions or associated pleas related to non-felony criminal misdemeanors and ethics violations result in a vacancy of an office. Quote, if a court determines that seriousness of the offense and degree of culpability of the officer so warrant, end quote, including, and this is to extend that language that's currently in the charter, including if determined by a supermajority vote of the city council following due process. The charter should also specify that Section 207E permits extended absences in the event that the council president makes a public written request for an official not to attend their official meetings or duties. This has been another gray area of the charter where in the wake of a criminal charge or a scandal, council president may ask a council member not to attend meetings, but this potentially runs afoul of some of the vacancy provisions in the charter today, whereby if a council member does not attend a certain number of meetings for a consecutive number of days, that office is then considered vacant. This would clarify some of the rules around those processes. Third reform is to define vacancy as a permanent vacation of an office, so via death, resignation, felony, or other 207C conviction or removal, terminating city residency, incapacitation, or unexcused extended absence, and to define temporary vacancy, which is mentioned in the charter today, but is not actually defined, to define that as cases where a member is suspended while awaiting a felony or criminal misdemeanor trial. The charter should further establish that temporary vacancies may be filled, as well as the processes for doing so. Next reform is to add explicit language requiring full city council approval to completely strip or restore committee assignments. And the charter could carve out specific circumstances for the stripping and or restoration of committee assignments amid instances of member misconduct that requires a public hearing and a vote with majority approval of the full council. So today, council president has unilateral powers over committee assignments. And often the first step following a criminal charge or a scandal is for the council president to act to remove that member from all sort of functioning policy committees. But again, no kind of standard practice in the charter. And finally on this slide, the last reform we have here is to clarify compensation requirements in the charter for electeds that are facing suspension. And to do so would be to either add language clearly specifying that suspended elected officials receive full or reduced compensation, or that their compensation is halted, but allow those suspended officials to seek outside employment. And we've provided some sort of instances of past issues where this has arisen and they've been handled sort of inconsistently. And it's clear that there's a necessity for further elaboration in the charter to handle these kinds of situations. On to the next slide. Our other reforms here include requiring the city to hold a special election when vacancies occur if more than half of the term remains, and providing the option to appoint or use a special election if less than half of the term remains. Clarifying how long a council president may serve as mayor during a mayoral vacancy in sections 409 and or section 243A. And lastly, creating a mechanism to enable removal or the initiation of removal of an elected official that involves a vote of the city council in what we're kind of calling a legislative recall. And in the report, we provided some examples of how other cities do this. All typically have due process where allegations are made and presented, evidence is presented, along with followed by public hearings and then a vote by the legislature. New York, for example, expels council members with a 2/3 vote, San Francisco with a 3/4 vote. San Diego has a less direct process that is sort of a hybrid recall, where 3/4 of its council can vote to place a recall of an elected official on the ballot in a special election. There's serious powers and rarely used, though New York did expel a member facing multiple ethics charges in 2020. And in 2012, 7 of 11 San Francisco supervisors voted to remove a sheriff, but it fell short of the 3/4 threshold. And to our knowledge, San Diego has not used these powers. Yeah.
So next we're gonna go through the,
Oh, you have a question? Did you?
I would like to stop and
Sure.
we're digesting these, and just to clarify process is we're listening to these recommendations, we're not actually moving these forward. This is an opportunity to ask some of those questions, so I'm just wondering when the right time is for some of those questions.
Whenever you would like, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lewis, do you have any questions? I just need to go back to my notes.
Yeah, so I think one may have been answered. In terms of a temporary vacancy, you indicated, I think it's proposal 6. It requires a special election for vacancies if more than half of the term remains, or maybe even exploring an option for a special election if there's less than half the term. So my question initially before we got to that was, how will the temporary vacancy be filled? What entities would be involved? Would any temporary vacancy be subject to a special election? Like, period. Is a special election the answer, basically?
Right now, the charter allows the council sort of the option. It gives it a set of different options. So one of those options is to hold a special election, although in recent history at least, we haven't really seen that happen. That hasn't played out either.
Right.
The council appoints a caretaker, occasionally not.
Which is why I'm asking.
Yeah. This would create at least some structure around, okay, if half the term remains, then you have to do a special, it would compel a special election, while still providing the option if less than half of the term remains to either appoint a caretaker or, again, continue to allow a special election.
There have been several instances and several of them have been handled differently. My question is why a special election has not been called in the past and they've assigned a caretaker. Is it budgetary? We know that elections can be expensive.
It's a good question. We'll have to do some research and get back to you.
Temporary vacancy issue. It's a charter crisis issue.
Thank you.
So another question around suspended council members not being paid. You know, I hear that, and in theory, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think most of us know that all alleged offenses aren't necessarily created equal. And I'm wondering, you know, my job, if I'm suspended, you know, while there's an investigation taking place or whatever, and then they come back and say, oh, all this is crap, basically, then I've been unfairly, you know, I've had to deal with unfair consequences of not being compensated while, you know, all this was sorted through. I'm just wondering about any exceptions depending on the nature of the offense, and I don't know how to clarify that in the charter. I don't know if trying to put language in the charter would to account for those situations would make it more murky. I'm not sure, but you know, if someone's alleged to have, you know, committed a murder versus, you know, something that is deemed more trivial but unlawful, technically all the same. I just wonder about that. And in the face of, you know, facts, you know, still not being revealed or exposed, I just, you know, I don't know. I'm just posing the question. I certainly don't have any preconceived notions over it, but you know, I'm just wondering how do we deal with situations where one offense might be much more significant. It seems like it's a no-brainer that even if you aren't convicted of this, you did something wrong, big time wrong. It was ethically, you know, it was unethical, whatever the case might be, versus something that it's much more gray and we really don't know. And should this person really have to deal with all these consequences before we come to some concrete resolution here? So I don't know, is there a way to make allowances in some way?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a right answer necessarily. I think it's somewhat of a judgment call that this body will have to make. You can go in a number of different directions, right? I think currently the charter seems to see, or at least legal interpretations of what has happened, seem to suggest that council members are owed their full compensation while suspended, and that they cannot earn income from any other roles per the charter. I think we could maybe add language to the charter if that's the direction that we wanted to go, to continue that practice, but make it more explicit that elected officials are entitled to continue to receive full compensation. That would put that issue to bed. I think, you know, ethically, as a taxpayer, as a voter, you know, I personally would feel a little stomachache over that, and I would understand if the public would have stomachache over that. Alternatively, you know, the charter could say clearly in these instances that council members, elected officials, while suspended, receive only partial pay. If they're found not guilty later on, they get back pay.
Maybe that's the answer.
That could be the answer, or perhaps it's removing the provision in the charter that doesn't allow elected officials to earn income from other sources. We've done a little bit of research on this. LA is somewhat unique in its charter that it bars elected officials from earning income from other sources. Other cities don't have such explicit prohibitions in their charter. Often there are a number of ethics rules that are spelled out that make it so restrictive that it's pretty practically infeasible for elected officials to earn income from other sources, but still provide the possibility of doing so. So I think it's, again, you know, it's up to the discretion of this body as to which kind of path you'd like to go down and how you add clarity to the charter around it.
And equally, there are options to give council options, or to limit council options, if the commission so chooses. You know, on the council compensation, I think, you know, this specific example on Mark Ridley Thomas, you know, it wasn't fully litigated. I think it was settled. We double checked that earlier today after a conversation. So we don't have an actual, you know, court case to look back and say the ruling was X, Y, and Z on that matter. So I think that means that there is room for clarification that could be made by the commission.
All right, thank you.
I have a question on number 6 on mayoral vacancies. Just recent instances, we know that the council president becomes mayor when that person is out
Of town.
have there been other instances, perhaps when Mayor Garcetti was being looked at to be ambassador to India, and what does the charter say regarding those vacancies? I know it's in here, but it would make my life easier if you read it to me. Tell me.
Let's go to that page. Here we go.
Page
So
7.
that's section 409, I believe, of the charter that gives broad latitude and discretion to the council to fill vacant elected offices, either by appointment. In practice, the council president is the de facto leader and appointing power, though such power is not explicitly bestowed on the council president charter. Oh, that's for, let's see, where's the mayor section? Where's the mayor section? Is that the next page? Oh, that is the
page
next.
17.
Yeah, sorry. 243A, to serve during the vacancy. So yeah, it hasn't been truly tested. We haven't had a mayor leave office in at least modern recent history. To attest that, you point out that Mayor Garcetti was potentially going to leave office, but he ended up serving the entirety of his term. So that didn't happen. So there aren't examples to point to, but there is opportunity to clarify the process because it's a little ambiguous in the much like the there's opportunities to clarify on council member vacancies.
Thank you.
So a broader question for me, in looking at the report, I like the format of it, I will say that. I like the way the issues are broken down, issues for the commission to consider.
Probably a little closer to the mic.
Oh, okay, sorry. So, that better?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I want to make sure the folks on the Zoom can hear you.
All right, thanks for that. I like the way it's broken down, the way the issues are highlighted. What I'm looking for, maybe it's in here and I'm missing it, opposing viewpoints.
Yeah, we have that in issues. Some of the, so where we have issues, those are kind of the counterpoints to things that people raise, because there's always, for most things, there's always a counterpoint. Attorneys have to play both sides for their client when researching. Similarly, we've tried to do that a lot here. It's not exhaustive. We can do. There's always more we can do. And later down in the process, if there's questions that you have, like, oh, I really need more, we're happy to research more further.
And I'm wondering, so I saw some of it, but it wasn't as clear to me if the counterpoints are identified throughout. But I'm wondering, for the organizations we've heard from, who are the organizations out there? I remember one meeting, I think it was the last Better Government Committee meeting we had. There was a young lady who spoke in opposition to Dunn's presentation and kind of challenged some of what we were told during that meeting. So I like to hear more from people like that, or organizations like that don't necessarily buy into what we've been told. I think the reality is pretty much what we've been presented with from these 5 informed this report.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just would like to hear more from organizations that aren't necessarily lockstep or maybe
Absolutely.
mostly aligned, but have some pretty important counterpoints that we should be considering that a report like this would take into account.
Sure. So the report itself, again, is sourced from all the presentations we've had, and we welcome more presentations. I think I've said before, we haven't turned away anyone to present. I don't think we're going to be able. Well, maybe come March when we're really doing the final stuff and somebody wants to come and give a presentation on something brand new. I don't know if we'll be able to make that happen, but so far we haven't turned around. So it's definitely still open if there's more out there, or if people have, again, specific things that they want to call out on here and say, to your point, I disagree with this, would love this to be a part of the report. And I'll say this for everyone in the room and outside the room, we're always happy to work with folks on that. And Dunn will be back in January as well for more in-depth presentation on their recommendations, on further recommendations. And they're working actively with the neighborhood councils. And of course, neighborhood councils, I say to you as well, continue to please submit your community impact statements. Those are official parts of the record. You can come and speak to them. You get more time than public comment. You get 5 minutes to come and give your community impact statement. And yes, so we're definitely sourcing from there as well.
Yeah, and my point in asking, I just want to make sure we have a diversity of perspectives here, and I mean, not folks who are maybe lockstep or folks who are adamantly opposed. You know, want to hear everything in between. You know, so yeah, from folks who know a lot more than we do, and are on the ground, you know, immersed in the work.
Sounds good. Shall we continue?
I have a question
Sure.
on the case study, the leaked audio scandal fallout. Since we were still living that fallout, specifically as it related to the removal or censure of our city council members. I see that you cite 3 different cities and how they dealt with similar situations. This is page 19. And again, what you're presenting on your PowerPoint is one thing. The actual staff report dives a little bit deeper.
A lot deeper, yeah.
So we're, as you're presenting this, we're also going through it as well.
Absolutely.
I just want to reiterate that we're asking the questions now based on what we're seeing and what we would like to see before we deliberate on what goes forward with these recommendations. Of these 3 cities that we looked at, again, unfortunate that we had to face this. We're still facing it. You also cited some news stories, and I'm curious what the news stories, because they're links, what they actually said about the fallout, whether it was properly handled, what we could have done better.
Sure, I mean, a lot of those news stories are just citing the factual statements that are made. We're not just like typing that, the leak tape scandal, because we know all about this is from my memory, but I'm like, we're also citing an article that states what we just said, so we're just citing that. These articles in particular aren't saying what could have been done, or they aren't opinion pieces. They're just more reporting what happened, if that makes sense. So that's what we're saying.
Thank you. Still, just give me a minute.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, I have no further questions. I think we can move on.
Perfect.
Commissioner Lewis, any further questions?
Not right now.
Thank you.
So the next section is on ethics and anti-corruption measures. So for the first recommendation,
Closer like me.
For the first recommendation, it comes from the Ethics Commission to remove Charter Section 803, which is for the election of board members for LAUSD, to move it to the municipal code. So one of the reasons they gave was that they wanted the LAUSD elections to be treated the same as citywide candidate elections, because the charter makes it difficult to update their rules quickly, while the municipal code allows changes to be made more efficiently as elections evolve. The second recommendation is to apply the LAUSD process for adjusting contribution limits to city contribution limits. So the adjustment time for the city election contribution limits currently is at 1 year. They would like to change that to match LAUSD election adjustment periods, which is every 4 years. The third one is to update the contribution limits to reflect current amounts for 2026. So the Ethics Commission recommends aligning the charter language in section 470 regarding adjustments to city candidate contribution limits with the processes for the adjustment process described in the campaign finance ordinance, which is a local law, to ensure that the regulated parties are aware of the adjustment processes, and they recommend updating this in the charter to reflect the current amounts from 2026 established by the predetermined formula. The predetermined formula we currently aren't aware of, but we'll be contacting to figure out what that.
So we don't know what that formula is.
But we will be getting that information from them directly. So number 4 is to apply to lobby employers and lobbying clients the same contribution ban that applies to lobbyists and lobbying firms. So the municipal code identifies 3 types of lobbying, lobbyists, lobby firms, and lobbyist employers. The charter currently prohibits lobbyists and lobbying firms from making contributions to an elected officer, a candidate for elected city office, and any of the controlled committees if the lobbyist or lobbying firm is required to register to lobby to that office. So this was written to eliminate the perception of corruption when those who have businesses before the city financially support candidates for elected office or office holders. So the Ethics Commission and Common Cause are recommending that this ban be extended to lobbyists, employers, and lobbying clients. They argue that the employers and the clients are the ones who are funding the lobbying efforts, so they do have a vested interest in the city decision outcomes, so they should also have the same contribution ban. So number 5 is to prohibit contributions from non-individuals. According to the California Government Code 82047, a person is defined as an individual, firm, partnership, joint venture, syndicate, business trust company, etc. They are asking that they ban all contributions from non-individuals like businesses, LLCs, and organizations to reduce confusion, improve transparency, and make compliance easier when enforcing. Number 6 is to specify that a declared emergency does not create an exemption from the laws within the Ethics Commission's jurisdiction. So this one, when a local emergency is declared, the ethics rules, they're proposing that they not be waived. Even though the emergencies, when declaring emergencies, it allows the city to bypass some normal contracting processes. They argue that the ethics safeguards should still apply even in emergency situations.
I have a question, I know I'm trying to make notes as we go back. What constitutes an emergency? Is there language around that?
So the charter does say that the mayor authorizes and declares a local emergency when a circumstance is or is likely to become beyond the control of the city's normal services.
That's rather broad, but thank you.
I think intentionally, yeah.
Yeah.
The next one is to extend the statute of limitations for civil and criminal enforcement of the campaign finance laws from 4 years to 5 years. So Charter Section 470 currently specifies a 4-year statute of limitations for civil and criminal actions arising from campaign violations. However, the California's Fair Political Practices Commission currently has a 5-year statute of limitations for administrative proceedings. Though they're different, they do recommend aligning those the statute of limitations to promote consistency for our regulated parties and to enhance the city's ability to work with the Fair Political Practices Commission on mutual enforcement obligations.
I have a question on this one. While it seems fine to align with the state, we have examples from other cities with LA County or across that have this similar provision.
Currently do not have the information, but I will find it.
Thank you.
So for number 8, it is to prohibit quid pro quo, soliciting, offering, giving, and receiving anything of value in exchange for city action. So the city currently has various laws such as conflicts of interest, prohibitions against misusing a city position, restrictions on gifts and campaign contributions. However, there is no explicit prohibition against quid pro quo exchanges. So the Ethics Commission recommends that we explicitly provide this prohibition in the charter, in charter language. The next one is to apply to lobbyists, employers, and clients the same gift ban that applies to lobbyists and lobbying firms. So the Governmental Ethics Ordinance, section 49.5.8 prohibits lobbyists and lobbying firms from making gifts to certain city officials. This ordinance does not apply to lobbying clients or employees, which according to the LA Municipal Code, as we discussed earlier, is defined differently. It's defined as different entities. So this ordinance, it was designed to guard against actual or perceived pay-to-play environments in City Hall. And they believe that lobbyists, employers, and clients have the same vested interest in government, in city decisions, so they should also have the same gift ban that lobbying firms and lobbyists have.
Do we know where PACs fall into this? Political action committees? I mean, I know there are limits. It just seems like a lot of what we're hearing for recommendations, I'm surprised that they're not already there, but I'm also hearing from the Ethics Commission that this is gravely crippling the ability for a candidate to raise funds. I understand the perception of quid pro quo and special interest, but also just thinking about a candidate running, it's like, where else are they gonna get the money? So again, doing a deeper dive here, but thank you. Commissioner Lewis, any questions?
No, go ahead and walk through the rest of it. Thank you.
So the next one is to raise the threshold for recusal reviews to 5 or more recusals due to the same financial interest, or recusals from 5% or more of all items due to any financial interest. So currently right now in section 707 of the charter, the Ethics Commission is required to conduct a recusal review when members of city boards and commissions recuse themselves 3 times on the same interest or 1% of all items within the 365-day period. They want to raise that to 5 times on the same financial interest and 5% or more of all items due to any financial interest. They argue that with the 3 item and 1% threshold, that it creates a lot of redundant reviews that amount to finding no misconduct. So they want to increase the limit to lessen the amount of reviews they do. The next one is to apply the LAAC legislative process. The city council vote up or down within 60 days to the LA Municipal Code legislative proposal. So this one, right now, when the Ethics Commission suggests changes to the municipal code to city council, they can change the proposal, they can delay, or they can take no action. But for changes to the administrative code, they have to vote yes or no in 60 days. They want the suggested changes to the municipal code to be treated the same as the administrative code. So have the yes or no vote in 60 days. So the next one is the regular ordinance updates for ethics and accountability laws. This comes from Common Cause. So currently there is no rule requiring the city council to regularly review or update the city ordinance that fall under the Ethics Commission's authority. They argue because of this, many of these laws have become outdated or contain loopholes that people have found and used that were not originally anticipated. So they recommend requiring every 10 years for the city council to review, suggest, and vote on updates to city ordinances that fall within Ethics Commission's authority. So the next one is to establish virtual public comment as a permanent option at open government meetings. So currently attending city council or commission meetings in person requires people to take off work, come downtown and wait for hours to provide comments. They do recommend having a virtual public comment like we did today at this meeting, and making that standard for all government meetings. However, one of the issues that were listed is that Senate Bill 707, which was signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in October, brings modern changes to the Brown Act and the public government meetings starting July 1st of 2026. So this bill, it requires qualified public meetings to have two-way remote attendance and disruption measures. It increases language translation and interpretation requirements and increases outreach requirements. So with that already being in effect, you could also codify it in the charter and make it a requirement.
But it seems like it may be redundant at this stage
It
here.
depends on which bodies it
Thank you.
applies to.
Yeah, I will say, as I mentioned to you earlier, Commissioner, that the city council has already asked the city clerk and city attorney to further advise them and the city as a whole on application, implementation, costs, etc. on this. So more information to come on that. But I think yes, when Common Cause submitted this, it was before 707 became law.
And although redundant, I mean, I think it's could be still a good idea to keep it in there so that it's etched in stone. Unless, you know, folks are gonna run off and look at state law, which, you know, they're not likely to do.
We're happy to reach out to Common Cause to also see if they have just any updates to this since.
Given the state bill.
Yep.
So the next one is to build out a city data bureau. Okay, so despite the language of Charter Section 490, the city does not have an operating centralized hub for collecting, analyzing, and sharing data to support major decision-making. This is also from Common Cause. Yes, it's also from Common Cause. They recommend building out a city data bureau because they say it would help the city make data-driven decisions more efficiently and accurately. They say having an in-house data expertise will streamline these services and facilitate access and transparency. And the charter could be amended to create specific timelines for creation and operation of this bureau. Number 15 is to prohibit the use of campaign funds to pay certain fines. So this recommendation would prohibit candidates from using campaign funds to pay certain ethics and campaign finance fines. So basically they would have to, when they are given a fine that falls within certain ethics and campaign finance violations, they would have to use partially their own funds versus using entirely their campaign funds that they generate.
Can I go back really quickly? 14, the City Data Bureau. I want to note that before the report, it's possible via a non-charter action, which it states yes here. While I strongly believe in data and analytics and how important they are for any company, organization, government to move forward and make the right decisions, this seems like a behemoth of an effort. Because I also feel that while they're gathering data in other departments, is it just not cross-functional? I mean, this is talking about building out a whole new department for the most part.
Yeah, I think Common Cause here is their point, is that it's already mentioned in the charter section for 490, but since they see that it hasn't been implemented by the council, they're asking the Charter Commission to kind of force council's hand and create more of a mandate to have a data bureau to do all of these things. So I think we've seen this from, I think it's a logical approach for a lot of groups and stakeholders, is if they are not getting it from council, to come to the Charter Commission and vice versa. They're trying, they're knocking on all doors, which is probably a smart approach. Especially when they've tried knocking on one door and they aren't getting what they want.
Thank you.
So, this is probably a question better posed to the Ethics Commission, but number 8. Prohibit quid pro quo. Isn't that a given? I mean, does that really need to be?
I think here their common cause, or sorry, the Ethics Commission is looking to close some loopholes.
And do we know examples of some things that have occurred that,
I don't think they gave us specific examples. We'll look back, and we still hopefully we'll have the Ethics Commission come and actually do a presentation. They just submitted their recommendations, which we have for the most part inserted in here. But that's a good question. We can go back to them, and of course, if they're able to give a presentation, that'd be great as well. And they might have. I mean, that might be one of the reasons that they put this in here is because they've seen examples of this. I just can't speak to that because I don't know if they put that in their letter.
yeah, a case study or two would be helpful there, because otherwise it seems like it's pretty clear and explicitly indicated in the charter and other processes throughout the city. So I'm just wondering what exactly those loopholes might be that are faced.
Yeah, we can circle back and see what examples they have. You'd be surprised by, or not, about how some folks are getting creative finding loopholes. So they might have identified those.
And so the last one in this section is to make the maximum civil penalty for violations of the campaign finance laws the same as the maximum administrative penalty. So when Measure ER passed, the maximum monetary penalty that the Ethics Commission may impose in an administrative proceeding increased from $5,000 per violation, or 3 times the amount of the money at issue, to $15,000 per violation, or 3 times the amount of money at issue. However, Measure ER did not increase the maximum penalty specified in the charter for civil proceedings related to campaign finance violations, which can be found in Charter Section 470. The Ethics Commission proposes to modify this charter section to the same penalty amount imposed for administrative proceedings, so making it $15,000 per violation, or 3 times the amount of money at issue across the board.
Where could we find those violations? Is it in the ethics? Is the ethics website? Do they usually issue press releases or something of the sort of any of these violations?
I haven't spent much time on their website. I would hope that they have a place where they, other than their meeting minutes that reflect that, but we can definitely look.
They have a database of enforcement actions.
There we
And
go.
then my other question is, why wasn't this proposed?
Sorry, for those who heard or who couldn't hear, their audience member said that they do have a database of enforcement.
Thank you. When Measure ER was proposed, I feel like they missed the boat on putting that in the language.
I think I won't say I think. I know, although I can't speak to this particular thing, but there was a lot of negotiation with council on what ended up in ER. So some things came and some things went. Don't know how that plays, but that could have been the situation.
Thank you. Brianna, you can proceed. Oh, unless you have another question.
No, that's it for now.
So the next section is the Neighborhood Council. So their first recommendation is in Article 9, Section 900. They want to replace the term citizen with the term civic in the language of Section 900, as the language of citizen disqualifies residents of Los Angeles without citizenship from participating in the government process. Their second recommendation is to amend language of establishing Department of Neighborhood Empowerment by replacing the term officers with board members. Throughout section 901, the charter uses the language officers. The Department of Neighborhood Empowerment has updated their language to board members instead of officers, and they would like the charter language to reflect this change.
This is really just more cosmetic. There's really no change to the function, correct? Thank you.
Number 3 is to clarify the commission's role in approval of contracts and leases prepared on behalf of neighborhood councils. Dunn proposes that there is a need for specificity over what authority the Board of Neighborhood Councils has in approving contracts and leases prepared on behalf of the neighborhood councils. So this amendment, it would ensure that the neighborhood councils have final control over their funding decisions, as it would require any contracts prepared on behalf of the neighborhood councils be presented to and approved by the neighborhood councils before it is executed, and they want that language explicitly in the charter.
And what is the typical budget of a neighborhood council that is provided to them?
We had that, I know.
$25,000.
$25,000.
$25,000, right?
Which
It
is,
was
I know it was much larger, at the creation point, back in 99, 2000.
So this is requiring further scrutiny for spending $25,000? And it's proposed by Dunn. Okay, thank you.
It was 50 in 1999, 32 last year, and then they just reduced it to 20. They basically can reduce it whenever, however. Sorry.
So the next section is to update section 904 title. The current section 904 title is Development of the Neighborhood Council Plan. Dunn is proposing to change the title to Development and Maintenance of the Neighborhood Council Plan. The addition of the term maintenance provides that Dunn, as well as the City Council, has the ability to consistently check that the Neighborhood Council Plan is being followed by the neighborhood councils and remains aligned with the charter requirements, and if not, it allows the necessary edits to the plan to be made. The next one is to update section 905 title to initial implementation of the plan. Currently, the section title is just implementation of the plan. They would like the word initial to be in the title, as this plan that 905 is referring to is the first plan that they submitted upon their creation. And they argue that they have more updated plans or more recent plans, and this is pretty well, they want the word initial in this section of the plan to show that the plan that's in this section is their initial plan, their first ever one. And they have made updates since, but this plan that you see in the charter is their initial.
Not all city council, neighborhood councils are created equal. I have to believe that this is really addressing just some specific ones versus all 99. And I'm reading the issues too, that it may increase the council's workload and constant edits to that plan. Thank you. No questions? Any questions, Commissioner Lewis?
No, well, actually, yes. Going back to number 3, do we know if there are any instances where neighborhood council is approving contracts or involved in contract negotiations at all outside of the $25,000 that's allocated to them?
I'm currently not aware of that, but I'll ask.
I don't, you mean outside of the money given to them?
Yeah.
I don't know how they'd be able to, if they don't have money to get into a contract, to negotiate a contract.
Or any projects that could ultimately impact their specific council or anything, like, just curious about that.
What do you mean by project?
Any city project that could involve or engage their council in any way? Or the contracts they're involved with, either approving or negotiations is strictly, it's restricted to that 25K, that pool money, that's it?
I believe so, right? Anyone else? I think so. I think it's specifically talking about those contracts that they have within their purview over their budget allotment. But we can double check just to make sure. We can follow up.
But nothing precludes them from fundraising for special events and whatnot.
That's not true.
That's not true. Yeah, I think that I don't believe because
And again,
much like
not
this
being very
commission
familiar
can't
with neighborhood
fundraise,
council-
like I can't fundraise
Yeah.
for like stuff that we're doing. There are a lot of rules against that. I think they have similar rules as well.
And again,
You can't
I,
take donations.
just lots of questions, just because I'm not that familiar with
Yeah,
neighborhood council,
absolutely.
so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate your question too. That's basically what I'm getting at. That 25K, that's all we're talking about.
I
No other
believe so.
funding.
We'll triple check on that, and if we get a different answer, we'll circle back.
So the next one is to update section 906A1, certification of neighborhood councils, to clarify that the bylaws must specify the method officers and board members are selected. So this one is also adding in the language to the line, the method officers are selected. In the charter, it currently just says the method by which their officers are chosen. They want it to say the method by which their officers and board members are chosen, because now in their structure they
Like proposed change with number 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of ticky-tacky cosmetic things that we got in this initial tranche, and then, in January, I think a lot more big picture, substantive stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for clarifying. We still have a pending presentation from Dawn, am I correct?
Yes.
So the next one is to update section 906 to replace everyone who lives, works, or owns property in the area with all stakeholders as defined by city ordinance. So Dunn is proposing to change this specific language to refer to the way the city ordinance defines stakeholders. They argue that going with the specific city ordinance is section 22.801.1. They argue that the way that this section defines stakeholders includes community interest stakeholders and anyone who has a stake in the city, to which the current language does not, so they wanted to change the way that stakeholders is defined in the charter to include community interest stakeholders and anyone who has a stake in the city.
So.
Very ticky-tacky, yes.
Yeah, well, ticky-tack, but, so is the implication that I may not live, not work, or own property, but in some way, shape, or form, I'm still invested in what goes on in this particular?
Yes.
Maybe your parents live there, I'm just, shooting from the hip, and
Yeah.
you're an
about
interested,
examples,
yeah.
What that looks
Yeah.
like, what would make me a stakeholder, interested person otherwise.
I thought it's you have to be part of an organization that
Yeah.
has their address within the district. So I think it's like if you're a member of a church or a community-based organization that's located within that area.
Would that fall under works for?
Well, I mean, it's like if you go to like a church that's in that area,
Oh.
then you could be one, or if you're part of a
Volunteer.
Kiwanis Club,
Okay.
Boy Scouts.
yeah. It's pretty broad.
So the next one is to change section 907, the title from early warning system to advance notice or opportunities for input. So they argue that changing this title, it provides clarity on advance notice requirements for neighborhood councils and avoids confusion with emergency situations. They've had experiences where this section title currently as it stands as early warning system has been interpreted as only applying to emergency management functions, whereas if you actually read the language of the section, which we have provided in the thing, it's for advance notice and opportunities for all input, not just emergency situations. And then the last one in this section is to expand section 908. Currently, that section is the powers of neighborhood councils. They propose to expand the language in this section to comprehensively and clearly describe the work they do for the city. They propose that in the language we include their advisory role to the city, responsibility of outreach, organizing community events, collaborating, mobilizing, strengthening community engagement and representation. So that the work that they do is explicitly stated in the charter.
I'm trying to understand it, so please forgive my confusion. Doesn't it seem like this is what they do already?
Yes.
So it's basically just add,
Yeah, it's
changes of the language?
Like
Yeah.
explicit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the next section,
Sorry, if I could just clarify, I think Max just reminded me. When I say Dunn is coming back to us in January, specifically Dunn with BONC, the Board of Neighborhood Councils, is coming in January. Commissions, thank you, is coming in January with their recommendations. Go ahead.
So this next section is reforms to the Ethics Commission. So the first one is to specify that the Ethics Commission has its own general counsel. So Measure ER authorizes the Ethics Commission to retain outside legal counsel to provide advice or take action in two situations. So that's on matters that directly involve the city attorney, the city attorney's office, or the city attorney's election campaign, and to assist the Ethics Commission in carrying out its duties on a specific investigative or enforcement matter. So this change brought on concerns related to the Ethics Commission receiving legal advice or enforcement assistance from an office that it regulates. So expanding Charter Section 708 and providing the Ethics Commission with access to outside counsel for all purposes, which they may independently employ or contract for. They argue it allows them to avoid conflicts that can arise because the city attorney's office advises all city departments and personnel regulated by the Ethics Commission.
Am I mistaken, or is this something that's also being talked about in another committee?
Yeah, that is correct. This is one of the Venn overlaps quasi in that, the government structure is looking at different structures of and different models when it comes to let's just say legal affairs and legal matters. That the current model of a citywide elected city attorney who advises everyone in all departments in the city is the chief legal officer and also the prosecutor of misdemeanors within the city. Is the current form, and there are different models throughout the state and across the country that committee is looking at, and we also have other commissions who have asked for outside counsel and opportunities for outside counsel, including also the city controller has asked for opportunities to expand their use of outside counsel. I will note that last week the government structure committee, I informed them that this section of their staff report that dealt specifically with city attorney was not reviewed by the office of the city attorney. I asked for permission for outside counsel from the city attorney's office, and they did not give that. So the committee has requested that city council approve the use for the commission and the committee to seek outside counsel. That makes sense? There.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, and for the record, I'd like to note that Commissioner Yap has arrived.
How are you?
Hopefully he didn't swim too much. Okay, continue, please.
So the second, recommendation is to increase the minimum annual budget appropriations to a baseline of 9 million and specify that the mandatory minimum budget appropriation must include funding for new mandates. Currently, their budget is at a minimum budget of 7 million for the Ethics Commission, which was established by Measure ER and found in Charter Section 711. They propose raising their baseline to 9 million, to especially if, they argue that if we were to approve some of the other recommendations such as city council expansion, other matching funds, programs and things like that, that they would need the increased budget to appropriately handle their role in those adjustments and those expansions. And then they also argue to have a mandatory minimum budget appropriation for new mandates. So they would like to have set amount of money set aside for when new mandates are introduced so that they can effectively handle those and not have to adjust their budget to find the money.
I have a question. Would not the recommendations of the Charter Commission, especially on expansion of city council, for example, affect every city department and not just the Ethics Commission, IT, HR, and everybody else? So I ask whether or not this increase and/or this request needs to be looked at a little bit more, so.
Yeah, so the committee, back to the Government Structure Committee, did move forward a couple of items on council expansion. And some of the work now that we have to do as staff is look at all the many things that would have to change throughout the charter and government structure writ large would be impacted if you change the number of council members. The little details throughout the charter that will have, small or large impacts. So yeah, that is definitely something that we'll be looking at.
I also feel that these can be discussed during budget period to address your department.
So the next recommendation is to require a 2/3 vote of the city council to declare a fiscal emergency in order to decline to increase the minimum budget. So Charter Section 471 currently prevents the city council from reducing or eliminating an annual matching funds appropriation unless it declares a fiscal emergency for that fiscal year by resolution with a 2/3 vote. The Ethics Commission proposes that the same vote threshold be applied to their budget.
Commissioner Yap, any questions?
No, not at this time.
The way we're doing it is we're hearing from staff and then asking as appropriate as we go along.
So the next one is to clarify that a decrease in revenue does not result in a decreased budget. Section 711A, they argue is vague regarding the effect that a change in city revenues can have on the mandatory minimum budget. So they are recommending that for the Ethics Commission budget, a decrease in their revenue or a decrease in their use of their budget does not result in a decrease of their budget in the coming years. So the next one is to require a $250,000 annual appropriation for outside counsel costs. So in the past, when a city agency requires the services of outside conflict counsel, the related costs have been paid from an existing allocation for the city's conflict panel administered by the City of Administrative Officer. However, once Measure ER passed, these funds were no longer made accessible to the Ethics Commission for retaining outside counsel. And as their minimum budget of 7 million was based on their current expenses, that does not include funds for retaining outside counsel. So they recommend requiring an additional $250,000 annual appropriation for outside counsel to avoid using money in their budget that's allocated for other areas and creating a de facto budget cut. They proposed. So the next one,
Commissioner Yap here. I'm wondering, was there I know that this is sort of a summary of some of the presentation that's been received previously. What do we have the overlay of what other cities do in this same regard? And you just have some sort of idea of that?
On which one, sorry?
Well, I mean, I know that we're focused here on the Ethics Commission
Yeah.
and some of the budget and some of how its independence, including for outside counsel costs. I'm just wondering if we have some additional context for the committee to consider.
Sure. I think, what we're presenting mainly is what was given to us by the Ethics Commission. I think they might have had an example or two of other cities that have in different places, but if you see specific recommendations that they have that you'd like us to do more on, this is the place to ask us to be like, oh, are there any cities that have that $250,000 or whatever the number is set aside for outside counsel? Yeah, if that makes sense. So if we don't have it here yet, we can look for it.
Okay, yeah, I think that it's trying to put into context, just looking at Commissioner Sanchez, unless you also have this context, I mean, when we're looking at what we're evaluating as to whether this is appropriate for LA and whether we want to upgrade or we want to maybe go beyond what other cities are doing. I think that reacting sort of in a vacuum is a little challenging, but I don't know what.
Yeah, so what's being presented to you is basically we're taking all the presentations that have been given to us thus far. So if they haven't given us yet too much additional information, we're not including, we're not doing the extra, we're certainly not putting in our recommendations. Staff isn't doing recommendations of our own. We're pulling together all the presentations that have been given and letters and council items on the subject and trying to put them all in one place to go through here in this process. And then when you have an opportunity, like I said, if you see something that you're like, I'd love more examples, is there more we can do here to your point? Should we go further? Are they not asking enough? This is when to have that, bring up that point and have that question.
And to further clarify, Commissioner Yap, is that we're listening, making some questions, going back, asking for more information. This recaps a lot of what we've received with more information and data that they have collected. So we've had a lot of questions. There's not a vote for this to move forward. We'll be able to do that in January, deliberate and see what, out of all of this, we move forward. Okay, Brianna, where are we? 6?
yeah. Okay, so number 6 is to establish an inspector general team within the Ethics Commission and increase the minimum budget to fund inspector general functions and increase enforcement staff and require the proprietary departments to pay for the Ethics Commission's staff assigned to them. So in 2023, the Ethics Commission was asked by the City Council to explore the possibility of establishing an inspector general or a similar function to focus exclusively on the city's land use and development processes. They found that these positions are rare in other jurisdictions. They instead have a central inspector general office with staff that are assigned to specific city departments and specific investigations. So based on these findings, the Ethics Commission recommends developing this team within their department to focus on land use processes, procurement, investigations, and decisions. And in addition to this, The Ethics Commission proposes an increase in their minimum budget to fund the Inspector General functions and the increased enforcement staff they would need to run this, as well as requiring the proprietary departments to pay for the Ethics Commission staff assigned to them.
So confused by that last part. The proposal is to set aside $250K for retaining outside counsel, but also having those departments that require the service essentially also pay the Ethics Commission for enlisting the work of the Inspector General. So they want their own money and they want these departments to pay them.
But that's different from the outside counsel. This would be a Inspector General team within their department. The outside counsel is a completely different.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it, clear, okay, thank you.
Any questions?
So, yeah, I hope we all understand, I'm sure we do, the importance of the Ethics Commission, no question, but the proposals are pretty much all rooted in increasing the budget in various ways, and so I'd like to know more here in particular. The point I brought up earlier around opposing viewpoints is the thought behind these proposals that are pretty much all about funding. Is it about preserving the Ethics Commission itself, or is it about needing funding to look out for the broader well-being or welfare of the city? So that's kind of my overriding question here. So I'd like to know more about that. I know the issues are listed here, some of the counterpoints, but yeah, I'd like to hear from those who may take issue with some of these. And I don't know the answer, I'm just posing the question.
Yeah, of course. We didn't get, presentation. We'll see in different sections, you'll have presentations that are counterpoints, but we didn't get presentations necessarily that were counterpoints to this.
I mean, because it doesn't shock me that any entity is asking for more money. But is it to preserve the entity itself, or is it because the entity needs more resources for the betterment of the city?
So the next one is to grant the Ethics Commission discretion to raise contribution limits. So currently, the city campaign contribution limits are raised every election cycle based on changes to the consumer price index. And the Ethics Department, they would like discretion in raising their contribution limits because they argue that basing it on consumer price index, they say it only measures the cost of living and does not account for other important factors, such as the amount that most Angelenos are willing or able to give to candidates. It also does not reflect the fundamental purposes of contribution limits, which is to encourage candidates to rely on small dollar support from everyday residents rather than large contributions from wealthy donors whose interests may not align with those of the general public. This is from the Common Cause, actually, not the Ethics Commission, my apologies. So Common Cause presented this recommendation to grant the Ethics Commission discretion to adjust the contribution limits, as they would be able to provide a more balanced approach to contribution limits in their opinion.
Any questions on number 7, commissioners?
Commissioner Yapir, I'm sorry, it struck me that the lead-in is to raise, discretion to raise contribution limits, but as I'm thinking about it, could it be that there would be just discretion to set the contribution limits, which means that they might choose to keep it lower and not raise it. You know, was that the you know, the proposal from Common Cause? I just don't recall. I remember this being touched upon, but I don't remember whether there was an interest in keeping them lower as well.
So you are correct. In the wording that we received, it did say to raise contribution limits, but as they were discussing, they would have the discretion to either lower or raise in the language.
Great, thank you.
I think in actuality, they're only looking to raise. They probably won't see opportunities to lower, but yeah, I think that is the essence of it, is simply.
The next one is to authorize the Ethics Commission to place ordinance changes on the ballot. So this one was proposed as a last resort effort. So this is intended to promote their independence and allow the public to weigh in on reforms, particularly if the council denies legislative recommendations. So this one is focusing on legislative recommendations from the Ethics Commission. They would like the ability to, it wouldn't be bypassing, but if their recommendation were to be denied, to then put it on the ballot and get the community's opinion on it.
It would be bypassing, yeah.
Yeah, I want to clarify that would be bypassing.
Yeah, that would be bypassing. Ultimately, if the council chose not to take action, then they could bypass. It wouldn't be like they automatically get bypass, I think is what they're recommending. They'd still have to at least go to council and say, hey, can you do these things? And council would have to say no, or not take action perhaps, and then they'd have that opportunity to trigger. And I think the last one?
Yes. The last one is to increase the size of the Ethics Commission from 5 to 7 commissioners. So currently, the Ethics Commission consists of 5 members, and according to section 700B, the mayor, the city attorney, the controller, the president of the council, and the president pro tempore of the council each appoint 1 member to the commission. So Common Cause proposes expanding the Ethics Commission from 5 to 7 members to promote greater discourse and an increase in independence within the Ethics Commission. They do argue that the additional 2 commissioners would not have the same appointment process. They suggest the Ethics Commission would have the discretion through a public application and review process to appoint the 2 additional commissioners.
Sounds familiar.
Is there any other commission that has this structure?
Well, this commission
Yes.
did get to do that.
Yes.
I believe it's similar to independent redistricting as well. Correct me if I'm wrong? No?
Those are somewhat cyclical versus those that are standing,
Yeah,
correct?
I believe so. I don't know if any other commission does that in the city, but it's not, again, it's not an unheard of process. This commission, which is not permanent, being an example, but it might be the first one in the city, if implemented, there would be a permanent commission, a permanent charter commission that would have that authority or that ability. Preamble.
So for the preamble, there's just one, is to update the preamble language. So the preamble was a topic of discussion during the 1999 charter reform process. The then elected and appointed commissioners issued an addendum to the charter to add the preamble to the front of the document with the revision to delete the word equitable. The current charter does not list the preamble at the front of the document, and groups such as Fair Rep LA and others have raised the preamble as an area for the commission to review.
I like the New York model. When we first heard in the presentation it was the guy from Woodbury University.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah. So that resonated with me. So
like to draft one as well.
Try that.
Yeah, I mean, just, I guess some additional context is, I mean, other cities have sort of like used it as an opportunity to have public assemblies to get together and write the preambles. And they're really sort of like statements of values. So there is like an opportunity here with, you know, our collaboration with Rewrite LA for that potentially to be a topic for them to focus on in their civic assemblies, just to focus on the preamble language.
Anything further from staff? I would like to take a moment to, perhaps Commissioner Yap, if you have any other questions, Commissioner Lewis. I know this has been a lot. And I think
And as with other committees, we've definitely still been answering questions after their meetings as they've really dug into it and, you know, had afterthoughts and after questions. That's what we definitely, this is, you know, as you all know, a breathing document, and we're happy to keep on having that discussion and answering the questions after this.
Commissioners, Lewis, yeah, anything?
Commissioner, yeah, nothing else from me.
Okay, I think that concludes
Yes.
this item.
We just want to go into next steps in this process. You know, again, today's goal is to do the first pass, answer questions, get some follow-up and everything. At the end, we'll ask you to receive and file this document, and we'll have more meetings, refine proposed reforms. The next deliberation meeting is Thursday, January 8th. That seems like a long way away, but if we've learned anything, that time is just flying. Committee will select reforms to advance to full commission. Commission will do further deliberation. Final reforms will be advanced to council before April 2nd. And you'll see on that last one of the last next pages, just a timeline of overview from there. And just the process that has gotten us to this point will get us even further as we keep on going. We've had 3 committee meetings this week, including government structure and infrastructure and planning. So it was a busy week. It's been a busy month. We don't have any meetings next week due to the holiday, but then we're back the first week of October, including our big public town hall that's going to be December 6th. Location to be announced here shortly. We're about, I think we've signed the paperwork, and we'll be able to announce the location of that big public town hall. That is, it's a official charter commission meeting. It won't be like called to order. It's going to be an open house, hopefully outside if weather isn't like today, where we'll have stations and people can interact and have two-way communication with staff, commissioners that are able to join. We answer community questions and everything. More information, we'll be putting out a press release soon about that and talking more about that, but we're excited about that on December 6th. Just wanted to preview that. And also remind everyone to follow us on social media, to take our survey, all of which can be found on reformlacharter.lacity.gov. So please stay involved.
When does that survey close?
That survey is going to be open until the end of the year.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, and I think unless you have any more questions, all we're looking for is a receive and file.
Motion to receive and file.
Commissioner Yap, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 This concludes our meeting for today. Thank you all for coming. Oh, this adjourns our meeting for today.
Perfect. Need that word. Thank you so much.
It looks like it's pouring out there.
is the only challenge that we have.